What's going on, guys? My name is Arrow. In today's video, I want to talk about my first impressions, what my build is, and maybe some tips and tricks along the way. Let's jump in. Okay, so like many of you, I struggled through the campaign. I was having a difficult time finding damage, and that was until I stumbled upon Cast on Freeze Cold Snap. Until you get access to Comet, which a lot of people know is probably the strongest spell in the game right now, Cold Snap provides a large amount of damage on a frozen enemy, but it consumes that freeze, which means if you're freezing often, Cold Snap will go off often. I was using Ice Nova with Glaciation and some other freeze mechanics in order to freeze enemies and then cast Cold Snap on top of them for free. And it ended up carrying me until I got to Cast on Crit Comet, which is what I'm playing now. My plan all along was to play Cast on Freeze Comet, but it was taking too long to freeze bosses, even with good damage, so that when I got to Cast on Crit, I immediately swapped over and got as much crit as I could. So let's jump in and quickly look at the gems. So the core of the build is Eye of Winter, Cast on Crit, Comet. Eye of Winter is linked to Frost Nexus so that I get more chilled ground when I freeze enemies, which gives Eye of Winter more damage. Arcane Surge, I don't love how this feels, but my mana is not great. You can also use Inspiration here. I've been kind of testing out the two. And then lastly, I have Ambush, which makes it crit enemies on full life more often. So now that I'm mapping, I'm not really doing many bosses. This is the strongest for clear. It's going to crit a lot of enemies, especially in a pack, and then you can switch over to Arcane Tempo while you are bossing, and you'll get more casts. I'm using a Blasphemy Hypothermia simply because I was getting annoyed at pressing too many buttons, so I took one of my buttons away by adding in this Blasphemy Curse. That's only because I have a big offhand that has a ton of spirit. There's a good chance I switch over to a shield so I can get some block, and that's going to force me to drop a lot of my spirit, which I'm not looking forward to. So our Cast on Crit setup. We have a Comet, we have another Comet, Spell Cascade, and Impetus. I also was using Energy Retention. I recently saw some tech while I was hanging out in Anime Princess's stream. One of his viewers, Basic, told me that you can actually put the same gem into the same Cast on Crit or Cast on Freeze, which allows me to have multiple Comets going off with Spell Cascade. That means I'm getting 6 Comets to go off every single time that I build up enough crit to have this cast. So not every pack, but just about every pack is going to get hit with multiple Comets. I'm still testing out different setups here. You're probably wondering, how'd you get a 5 link? I got a Greater Jeweler's Orb to drop early in maps, and that allowed me to get another link here. Vitality, Cannibalism, and Clarity. These are just supports on my life remnants. I'm also using Herbalism to get more returns from my life flask. I had a ton of extra spirit from switching over to this Font of Power. Now, these are not always accurate where it says you don't have enough spirit. I've tested this. You just got to make sure that your skills are actually working. You can see in the character panel if you're having regen or not. So for me, it says I'm down to 1 spirit and these are active. Just make sure that you check in your character panel because it was bugged for me. I'm also using Frost Wall and Spell Echo to defend myself from enemies. A lot of times I find myself getting overrun, so I will put down a bunch of these walls and I will keep the enemies on the other side. Here's a really cool tip. If you're a Blood Mage, you can crit your walls in order to get life remnants to drop, which seems ridiculous, but here we go. As you can see, I'm having a lot of problems with life and mana sustain. I am not quite there in solving it yet right now. I'm just relying on my flasks. It can be pretty frustrating, but the build is very, very fun to play. So I'm still working out those ideas. I will have more videos coming as soon as I figure things out. My gear is atrocious. This is an average gear piece for me. Life and 1 small res. It's not great, but we're just getting into maps and trade finally came online for me. I actually didn't have access to trade because my character was showing his offline. Couldn't sell a single thing until late last night. Another tip, I am using Grim Feast to help bolster my energy shield. If you are an ES-based character, just killing enemies will drop little remnants on the ground. I'm already running around picking up the life ones, so this was a no-brainer. Shout out to my chat for recommending that. So yeah, as far as playstyle goes, it's a couple of buttons total. For the most part, you can just run around, throw your Eye of Winter, but then when you get near some like stronger packs, rare packs, you put up the walls. You can often get monsters locked in the walls, and then also I will throw down a Frost Bomb, which has a bunch of exposure effect on it. So you can actually proc your Cast on Crit by hitting your walls as well, which is pretty nice. It's going to give you, obviously, you can see the Comets coming down, and we're building up Cast on Crit chance up here. It's pretty weird that you can create your own Frost Walls, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more tech that comes out of this, but you can do it. I'm level 71. I just recently got into maps. I've been dying on my maps an awful lot because I'm not even a little bit res capped. This is what my gear looks like right now. 27 fire res, 36 cold. I am a frustrated Blood Mage who can't really find a lot of defense for myself. I'm not enjoying the way the energy shield feels. I think I'm going to switch over to armor and then maybe try to switch over to block as well. I'm not sure that's going to get me what I want, but I got to try to do something. So that's where I am right now. Quick look at the passive tree. I actually spec'd out of Leech because it was so bad that I don't think it was even working for me. I did some very, very quick testing and I could not see my life change when I was hitting enemies. Okay, ready? Do you see it moving? I had no degens on me, nothing. So it feeling so bad meant I just spec'd right out of it. Now, this has created a huge problem. I have a build that costs life, that doesn't have enough recovery. Also, using Grasping Wounds means I need even more recovery. Basically, if I run out of life flasks, I'm toast. Luckily, I have enough damage to get through a lot of the content with just my life flask. Basically, what I'm doing on the tree, we're going up here to get cold. We're getting as much crit as we can. There's crit all over the place here. We're taking the Energize node, which gives us a chance to return energy so we cast on crit more often. This is super strong. I have a bunch of recoup here. This feels pretty good. And then something I'm going into here now, which is pretty fun. Got to make this trade. We're very poor. One of the things I'm doing is grabbing this curse wheel, and then I'm going to be grabbing hindered capabilities. So basically, this gives my blasphemy a huge amount of area, and it also hinders enemies that I curse. So enemies that are nearby are both hindered and cursed. And then this wheel gives me increased slow magnitude. So my hinder makes enemies more slow, and my chills make enemies more slow. And then at the end, we have 30% increased damage with hits against hindered enemies, which they're all hindered. So these 7 points here give a lot of slow value and a decent bit of damage. But that's about it. If you have any questions, make sure to stop by my Twitch. I'm going to be changing, improving, and doing the best I can to make a good build out of this. I am sticking with what I started with, and it turns out that Comet is really strong. So we're going to figure out a way to make the defenses feel good, even though I'm not really enjoying the Blood Mage. I kind of wish that I was a Stormweaver, but it is what it is. We push on. I've been having a ton of fun despite the fact that I've died a bunch. So definitely stop by the stream. If you like this content, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. As always, take care.